than just a rapper. He is an activist. He is a humanitarian. He is a self-described son of this city. He just told some reporters backstage that if you cut him, he bleeds Atlanta. He is a business owner. That's right. He is a business owner, but most importantly, he is someone who has stood up, who has said enough is enough, who is going to get engaged, and he's going to take everybody he can with him. So please, give a warm round of applause to Killer Mike, ladies and gentlemen.
I am honored to be here. Oh, I am truly, truly honored to be here. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and I say that proudly. I repeat, I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and I say that proudly. If you're from Atlanta, Georgia, you may be familiar with a young man who grew up not far from here. His name was Martin King. Now I know this is the part where usually it's a black minister in front of you, and usually you get all warm and cozy inside, and usually you hear about I have a dream and us holding hands and going for ice cream. That's not why I'm here today. I'm not here to talk about benevolent politicians that are going to come and save the day for you. I'm not here to talk about a dream that we think is unattainable, so we settle for less. I'm not here to talk about a utopian society where everyone is forgiven and no one has to pay for past debts. What I'm talking about today is the Martin King post the Washington March. Martin King present the war on poverty. Martin King against the war machine that uses your sons and your nephews to go to other lands and murder. I'm talking about a revolutionary. I have no time in my short 40 years on this earth to relive the Reagan years. I have no time. I have no desire to see us elect our own Margaret Thatcher. I am here as a proponent for a political revolution that says health care is a right of every citizen. I'm here because working class and poor people deserve a chance at economic freedom. And yes, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be in poverty. That's why I'm here. I didn't come here to lollygag because I rap. This could be y'all last time seeing me because I got tours to go on, I got jets to fly on, and I ain't lying on. But while I'm here, I have to tell you that in my heart of hearts, I truly believe that Senator Bernie Sanders is the right man to lead this country. And I believe it because he, unlike any other candidate, said, I would like to restore the Voter Rights Act. He, unlike any other candidate, said, I wish to end this illegal war on drugs that disproportionately targets minorities and poor. Unlike any other candidate in my life, he says that education should be free for every citizen of this country. Now, I only have a few minutes, but as I read the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's comments about me speaking tonight, one jumped out at me and it broke my heart. It says, I don't listen to rap and I'll no longer be listening to Bernie Sanders. And I just want to say that whoever wrote that, before I was a rapper, I was a son of Atlanta. Before I ever wrote one rhyming word on paper, before that, I was a black man in America. And before I ever learned how to dance a jig, I gave a damn about American politics. I gave a damn about the people of America, and I took to the streets and I advocated. So, I know I'm preaching to the choir tonight. I know there are not a lot of voices of dissension out there. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm here to tell you, stay encouraged, stay invigorated, stay bold, stay confronting bullshit at every turn. Make sure that wherever you go, you take the name, the ideas, the philosophy, and the ideology of Bernie Sanders there, and you make sure when you leave, they are on fire because they have felt the burn. I have a line from one of my raps, and I'm going to get out of your way. I have said in many a rap, I don't trust the church or the government, a Democrat, Republican, a pope or a bishop or those other men. But after spending 5 hours tonight, after spending 5 hours with someone who has spent the last 50 years radically fighting for your rights and mine, I can tell you that I am very proud tonight to announce the next president of the United States, Senator Bernie Sanders. Everyone give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, Atlanta. You know, we've done a lot of events throughout the South, but we've never had a turnout like this. Thank you very much. And let me thank Killer Mike. That was quite an introduction. Now, Killer Mike is, as you all know, a great rapper, but he is a lot more than that. He's trying to talk truth throughout this country and, in fact, throughout the world, trying to bring people together. Mike, thanks very much for what you're doing. This afternoon, here in Atlanta, I was able to visit the very beautiful Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change. And I had the opportunity to meet with Dr. King's daughter, Dr. Bernice King. And to me, that was a very moving visit because Dr. King is one of my heroes and clearly one of the great leaders in the modern history of the United States of America. He was a great leader because he was a man not only of great intelligence and great courage, he was a guy who was beaten time and time again, thrown in jail time and time again, but he kept his eyes on the prize. And that's a lesson. Victory does not come easily. Struggle does not come easily. And what we need to do is to keep our eyes on the prize as he did. Always fighting for what he called the beloved community. His vision for a world of justice, of peace, and equality for all humanity. That was his vision. And Dr. King was a great leader because he understood a profound truth. It was true in his lifetime, true before him, and true today. That real change always takes place from the bottom on up, never from the top down. And that's why he and his associates were extraordinary organizers, organizing millions of people throughout this country to stand up to racism, to stand up to segregation, and to create a more just society. And he was a great leader because he believed in democracy and he believed in the importance of people being involved in the political process. And he spent an enormous amount of time and energy to tenaciously fight for the Voting Rights Act so that people in this country, all people, have the right to vote regardless of the color of their skin. And that's a lesson, and Killer Mike just made that point, that I want all of you and all Americans to appreciate. It's not only Dr. King. It's people in World War II in countries, fighting in countries throughout the world to defend American democracy. And when you turn your back on democracy, when you say, I'm just too busy to vote, or I don't really care, or I don't believe in the political process, you're turning your back not only on Dr. King, but on God knows how many men and women who fought and died to protect democracy in this country. And Dr. King was a great leader because he continued to grow and expand his vision. Now, you don't necessarily know this if you watch the TV, but the truth is, he did much more than just fight segregation and racism. What he did against enormous opposition from the establishment, opposition from people who contributed money to his organization, he said, you know, I, Dr. King, have been a proponent of nonviolence my entire life. And I see America engaged in a war in Vietnam that they should not be engaged in, and I must speak out against that war. He didn't have to do that, but he did. Furthermore, he was a great leader because he understood that justice in America was even more than civil rights. It was economic rights as well. And what he said was that, of course, we have to end segregation at lunch counters and at hotels and at universities and schools. But then he also said, what difference does it make if a family can't afford to send their kid to those schools or eat in that restaurant? And I hope all of you will remember where he was and what he was doing when he was assassinated in 1968. He was standing shoulder to shoulder with sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee, union workers who were being exploited, workers who were earning wages much too low, workers who were having work conditions absolutely horrendous. And he said, I will stand with you. Because he understood that to be free in America meant that you have to have economic rights. You have to earn a living wage. And I hope you'll all remember that in the last months of his life, he was prepared to take on the entire establishment and take a hard look at the national priorities of America. And he was organizing, not a lot of people know this or remember this, but he was organizing what he called a Poor People's March. It was a march of African Americans, of whites, of Latinos, of Native Americans, and it was the coming together of all exploited people to demand that the United States government started passing policies which represented all of the people, not just the people on top. And in fact, in the last months of his life, he talked about a nation which had socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor. Atlanta is the city in which Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife, Coretta Scott King, have their final resting place. And I hope that all of you in Atlanta will do everything that you can to keep the extraordinary vision of Dr. King alive. And what I want to do, and what we've been doing throughout this campaign, and the reason why I think our campaign has had as much success as it has had, is that we are simply treating the American people with intelligence. And what that means is that in a democratic society, politics is more than a 30-second ad. Politics is the need to lay out on the table the problems facing our country and in a respectful, intelligent way, figure out how we go from here to there. And politics is also an understanding, as Dr. King understood, that nothing real changes, that we don't make the change that we have to unless millions of people get involved in the political process, what I call a political revolution. And when all across this country, working people and low-income people and people of color and people who are gay and people who were born in other countries, when we understand that we're not going to allow them to divide us up, we're not going to allow them to scapegoat one group or another. When we come together and when we say loudly and clearly, enough is enough, that this great country and our government belong to all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. And that is what this campaign is about. It's a coming together. It's a telling people who have given up on the political process, you better come back in. And when we talk about politics in America, let me tell you what no other candidate for president will tell you, and that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. What that means, and you're not going to hear this from anybody else, what that means is that the powers that be, corporate America, Wall Street, the huge campaign contributors, the corporate media, these folks are so powerful that no president can do what has to be done for working families unless millions of people join the political revolution. Now, it is true that the people on top have unbelievable sums of money. That's true, and they have incredible power. But there is one thing that we have that they don't have, and that is we have the people. And when people come together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Now, today, you may not appreciate this, but today in America, we live in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But most Americans don't know that, don't feel that, because almost all of the wealth and all of the income is going to the top 1%. In America today, we have more wealth and income inequality than almost any major country on earth. And it is worse today than at any time since 1928. Now, I want you to hear this and think if this is the kind of country you want to be living in. In America today, listen to this, the top 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. In America today, one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. When you talk about an economy that is rigged, understand that in the last 2 years, the 15 wealthiest people in this country, 15 people, saw their wealth increase by $170 billion, which is more money than is owned by the bottom 130 million Americans. Now, I can tell you that in my state of Vermont, you got many, many people who are working not one job, they're working 2 jobs, they're working 3 jobs, and I am sure that is the case here in Georgia and the case all over America. In fact, turns out that while the Japanese are very, very hard workers, we in the United States work longer hours than the Japanese and longer hours than any other people in the industrialized world. We work incredibly long hours, and I go around the country and I talk to working people, and they're working 50, 60 hours a week. Husbands and wives don't see each other. Marriages are destroyed. People are not spending time with their kids because they're out working and working and working, trying to cobble together some income and health care. And yet, despite the fact that we work so hard, it turns out that 58% of all new income generated in America today goes to the top 1%. Brothers and sisters, our job is to create an economy that works for all of us and not just a handful of billionaires. And this campaign is sending a message to the billionaire class. And that message is, you cannot have it all. You are not going to get huge tax breaks when children in Georgia and Vermont go hungry. Ain't gonna happen. You are not going to continue shipping our jobs to China when workers in this country desperately need decent paying work. You are not going to cut the wages and the benefits and the pensions of workers and then give the CEOs of large corporations outrageous compensation packages. And when we talk about the economy, it is not just that we have a grotesque and immoral level of income and wealth inequality. It is also that unemployment in this country is much higher than most people assume. Every month, federal government comes out with a report. It's called official unemployment. Nationally, that means they say it's about 5%. But what that report does not include are people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. And when you add all of that together, real unemployment is close to 10%. And now let me tell you something which we almost never discuss, and that is the tragedy of youth unemployment in America. Now, a couple of months ago, I asked some economist in Washington to do a study for me, and I said, please tell me what the rate of real unemployment is for kids 17 to 20 who are high school graduates, not dropouts, high school graduates. And this is what they reported. For white kids, the number is 33%. For Hispanic kids, 36%. For African American kids, 51%. Now, I want you to think for a moment what that means and what the implications of that. All right, we have to take a break. I'm sorry. I didn't realize my oratory was so powerful. I don't know. But the gentleman, as you know, just walked off the stage, and I think he's all right. The point that I was in the midst of making is that when you have youth unemployment, that is so high, when you have young people who want to get out and start earning some money and becoming independent and standing up on their own 2 feet, and they look out in the community and they can't find any jobs. There is no income. Under those circumstances, bad things happen. And if anyone here thinks there is not a direct correlation between outrageously high youth unemployment in America and the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, you would be mistaken. China is a communist authoritarian country. They don't tolerate dissent all that well. They are 4 times our size. We have more people in jail than China. We have 2.2 million people in jail, disproportionately black and Hispanic. Now, it seems to me that both from a human perspective, not seeing young people's lives being destroyed, and by the way, from a financial perspective, because we're spending $80 billion a year locking up people. Education and jobs rather than jails and incarceration. So here is a promise I make to you tonight, that if elected president by the end of my first term, we will not have more people in jail than any other country. We will reform a broken criminal justice system. We will have our young people at work or in school, not rotting behind jail cells. And when we talk about the economy, it's not only income and wealth inequality, it's not only high unemployment. It is also the fact that wages in America are just too damn low. The current minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. We have got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour over the next few years. It is not a radical idea. It is not a left-wing extremist idea to say that if somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. And I hope that every man in this room tonight will stand with the women and fight for pay equity for women working. There is no rational economic reason as to why women make 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. And together we are going to change that. Equal pay for equal work. And when we raise the minimum wage to a living wage, and when we have pay equity for women workers, you're going to see millions of single moms all over this country finally being able to raise their children with the security and dignity they're entitled to. Now, many of you have heard my Republican colleagues and Republican presidential candidates talk about family values. They just stay up nights worrying about families, especially if they are very wealthy families who can contribute to their campaigns. But all of you know what Republicans are talking about when they talk about family values, and what they are saying is that no woman in this country should have the right to control her own body. I disagree. And what they are also saying is that our gay brothers and sisters who want to get married should not have that right. I disagree. Now, I am a very lucky guy. I have 4 great kids, 7 beautiful grandchildren, and my wife Jane and I have been married for 27 years. And Jane and I believe very strongly in family values, but they are very different values than Republicans believe in. And when we talk about family values, we are talking about ending the international embarrassment of the United States of America being the only major country on earth that does not provide paid family and medical leave. Now today, in Georgia, here in Atlanta, and Burlington, Vermont, women are giving birth to babies. And for those of you who are parents, you know what an extraordinary day that is. And it's a pretty big day for the baby as well. But here is the real story, and I want you to think about this for a second. If a mom and a dad come from a family that has sufficient income, mom and dad can stay home and get to love their baby, get to know their baby, get to bond with their baby in the way that families should be able to do. But today in America, if that mother is a working class woman or a low-income woman, she will be forced to be separated from her newborn baby after 1 week or 2 weeks because she doesn't have the income to stay home. And that is why together we are going to pass legislation that calls for 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. We are not going to be the only country, major country on earth, that forces women to go back to work and not be able to take care of their babies. And when we talk about the economy, it is important to talk about the need for us to create millions of decent paying jobs to put our people back to work.
Killer Mike is...
In America today, given the educational crisis that we face, we should not be firing teachers, we should be hiring teachers. In America today, given the fact that we have a dysfunctional child care and pre-K system, where child care and pre-K are unaffordable for millions of families, we should be hiring people, paying them well to take care of our little ones. In America today, our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, water systems, wastewater plants, our rail system, our airports, our levees, our dams need an enormous amount of work. Putting $1 trillion into rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure will create up to 13 million decent paying jobs. And that's what we should be doing. And when we talk about our economy, it is imperative that we take a very hard look at the greed, the recklessness, and the illegal behavior taking place on Wall Street. All of you are aware that as a result of recklessness and illegal behavior, Wall Street drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. And millions of people have not yet recovered from what Wall Street did. Now, what you have today is a situation where the 6th largest financial institutions in America have assets equivalent to 58% of the gross domestic product of America. You have six financial institutions that issue about 2/3 of the credit cards in America and about 1/3 of the mortgages in America. When you have financial institutions that are too big to fail, Wall Street spent $5 billion in lobbying and campaign contributions in order to get deregulated. $5 billion. And then, after they crashed, they spent more money telling Congress to bail them out. And here's something that we should think a lot about. And that is that many, many hundreds of thousands of people in our country over a period of years have received police records for the possession of marijuana. But not one CEO on Wall Street whose illegal actions crashed the economy has a police record. So you have a situation where banks are not only too big to fail, the bankers are too big to jail. And that has got to change. And when we talk about what's going on in our country, it is not only the fact that we have an economic system that is rigged, where people are working incredible hours, but all of the wealth, almost all of the wealth and income goes to the 1%. We got something else going on, not unrelated. And that is we have a campaign finance system which is corrupt. As a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, the Supreme Court said to the wealthiest people in this country, they said, okay, guys, you already own much of the economy. Now we're going to give you the opportunity to buy the United States government, and that is what they are trying to do right now. Virtually all of the candidates for president, not all, but almost all, have super PACs. And what a super PAC is the ability of millionaires and billionaires to pour as much money as they want into a political campaign. And in fact, in most cases, the super PACs actually have more money than the campaign's own treasury. So the billionaires have more power over a campaign in many respects than does the candidate himself or herself. And I am very proud to tell you that I do not have a super PAC. I do not want a super PAC. My campaign does not represent the interests of the largest corporations and the wealthiest people. But what I can tell you, which I am enormously proud of, is that as of this date, today, we have received over 800,000 individual contributions, averaging $30 a piece. This is a people's campaign. And let me also tell you that if elected president, no nominee of mine to the United States Supreme Court will get that position unless he or she is loud and clear in saying that they will vote to overturn Citizens United. I am a passionate believer in a very radical idea called democracy. And what that means to me is that I want every person in this room, and I want people all over Georgia, all over America, regardless of their political views, the conservatives, the moderates, the progressives, whatever they are, I want them to be able to run for office and not have to hustle money from wealthy people. And that is why I strongly believe in public funding of elections. And let me also say this to the government here in Georgia, government in South Carolina, and that is what democracy is about, is to try to make sure that as many people as possible get involved in the political process. Our job is to encourage people to vote, not to suppress the vote. Now, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I have run in many campaigns in my state of Vermont. Sometimes I've lost, most times I've won, but it has never, ever occurred to me, not for 1 second, to sit around and try to figure out how I can prevent people who disagree with me from voting. That is, when you do that, you are nothing less than a political coward. And if you are too afraid to run in a free and fair election, get another job. Today in our country, sadly, we have one of the lowest voter turnouts of any major country on earth. I want that changed. I want us to have one of the highest voter turnouts, not one of the lowest voter turnouts. And I will fight, either through a constitutional amendment or through legislation, to make certain that everybody in America 18 years of age or older is registered to vote. End of discussion. And when we talk about our needs as a nation, I think all of you know that we live in a highly competitive global economy. And we need the best educated workforce in the world. And that is why it makes no sense to me, that we have today hundreds of thousands of bright and qualified young people who are unable to go to college for one reason alone, and that is their families lack the money. I have introduced legislation and will make happen as president. Legislation that does two things. Number one, it will make every public college and university tuition free. And what that means is there are kids here in Atlanta in the 4th grade, in the 6th grade. Their parents never went to college. My parents never went to college. And when you're in a family whose parents never went to college, you kind of don't associate with families who went to college. And for those kids, the dream of going to college is non-existent. It's as likely they're going to go to college as go to the moon. They don't think about it. So they don't do their schoolwork seriously. What I want to see happen is that every kid in this country who studies hard, who takes school seriously, will be able to get a college education regardless of the income. And the other thing this legislation does is deal with a major crisis impacting millions of people who have student debt. It makes no sense to me that people with student debt are paying interest rates on that debt of 6, 8, 10% when they could refinance a home for 3 or 4%. And that's what we're going to allow them to do. Now, the truth is that if we provide free tuition at public colleges and universities, and if we substantially lower student debt interest rates, that is an expensive proposition, about $70 billion a year. We are going to pay for that through a tax on Wall Street speculation. When Wall Street collapsed, they came running to the United States Congress for a bailout. Well, now it is Wall Street's turn to bail out the middle class. When we talk about our responsibilities as human beings, as parents, as grandparents, there is nothing more important than leaving this planet to our kids and grandchildren in a way that is habitable. The debate is over. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity, and climate change today is already causing massive problems in our country and all over the world. And what the scientists tell us is that if we do not get our act together very shortly and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, that if we don't do that, a bad situation today will become much, much worse in years to come. And what they are talking about is rising sea levels, acidification of the ocean, more drought, more floods, and more international conflict as people fight over limited natural resources. Our responsibility to lead the world, to work with China and Russia and India in transforming this planet's energy system away from fossil fuel. And as your president, that is exactly what I will do. What this campaign is about is thinking big, not small. It's not accepting the worldview that many provide to us. It is asking the hard questions of why not? Why is the United States of America the wealthiest country in the history of the world? Why are we the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a right? Now, I am a member of the Health Education Committee, the committee that helped write the Affordable Care Act. And it is obvious to anyone who is not deeply prejudiced that the Affordable Care Act has done a lot of good in this country. The Affordable Care Act has provided insurance for many millions of people who previously did not have it. It has done away with the obscenity of pre-existing conditions. It has developed community health centers all over America. But let me say this, let me make 2 points. Number one, it is, as somebody who helped write the bill, I can tell you that none of us were of the belief that there would be governors throughout America, including Georgia, including South Carolina, who would refuse to expand Medicaid. In Georgia, as I understand it, some 600,000 people are not getting health insurance because governors and members of the legislature are more concerned with ideology than they are with the health of their people. That's wrong. But what we also have to do is to understand that despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, we still have 29 million Americans with no health insurance. We still have even more, including many in this room, who are underinsured with high deductibles and co-payments. We still have a situation where our life expectancy is lower than many other countries and our health care outcomes are not as good, yet we spend by far more money per capita on health care than any other country. That is why I believe that what we must do is join the rest of the world, make sure that health care is a right, not a privilege. And guarantee health care to all people through a Medicare for All single-payer program. And when we do that, I want you to know what it means. It means not only that families will save substantial sums of money on health care, because the current system is the most expensive in the world. It will mean that millions of workers who are now in jobs they do not want to be in, but are there because of the health insurance they're getting, those workers will be able to leave those jobs and do what they want to do, which will be a huge asset for our economy. It means that small and medium-sized businesses will not have to spend half their lives worrying about health care, and they can worry about their business. Now, when we talk about the issues that face us as a country, there is no question in my mind that we must, once and for all, end institutional racism in this country. And reform a very, very broken criminal justice system. Now, all of you have seen the same videos that I have seen. All of you are aware of the names Sandra Bland and Michael Brown and Rakia Boyd and Eric Garner and Walter Scott and Freddie Gray and many others who died at the hands of police officers or in police custody. Now, let me say, I was a mayor of the city of Burlington for 8 years, and I worked very closely with the police department there. And what I will tell you, what I believe to be true, not only in Burlington, but all over this country, vast majority of police officers are honest and hardworking and trying to do their best in a very difficult situation. It is not easy being a police officer today, but like any other public official, when a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. And when we look at criminal justice reform, it is clear to me that we must demilitarize our police departments. The best police departments in the country, and there are many great police departments, are part of the community, not being seen as an oppressive force. We need to make certain that police departments look like the community they are serving. We need new rules regarding the allowable use of force. Lethal force should be a last resort, not a first resort. We need to end the absurdity of private corporations making profits by building and running jails. We need to understand that substance abuse, a very serious problem in my state and all over America, is a health issue, not a criminal issue. Which means we must invest in drug courts and medical and mental health intervention rather than more incarceration. We need to take a very hard look at the so-called war on drugs, which has destroyed so many lives. There are many, many hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, over a long period of time, who have received police records for possessing marijuana. And some have been jailed. But when you have a police record, your life is radically changed. It becomes more difficult to get a job, more difficult to get credit, more difficult to do all of the things that one wants to do in one's life. And that is why I have just introduced legislation, and will make happen as president, to take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. Right now, as part of the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is in the Schedule 1 class, right alongside heroin. So I'm not advocating for marijuana, but what I am saying is I do not want to see more and more lives being destroyed because of possession of marijuana. Furthermore, and very, very importantly, we need a path back from prison. Too often people are released from prison. They don't have the education they need. They don't have the jobs they need. They don't have the money they need. They don't have the housing they need. And shock of all shocks, they fall back into the environment that got them in prison in the first place. That has got to change. And when we talk about issues of importance to our country, I hope everybody here knows that today there are 11 million people in this country who are undocumented. And let me be very clear. I regard it as reprehensible that you got politicians who are demagoguing these folks with racist and outrageous attacks. There are politicians who are trying to open the door to racism, whether it's against our Hispanic brothers and sisters, whether it's against Muslims, and we are going to shut that door closed. This country, and in the city of Martin Luther King Jr., this city and this country know we have